The town of Blackridge had always been a place where fog lingered long after the sun had set, swallowing streets and alleys in a thick, gray veil. The locals avoided the old Blackridge Mansion, whispering tales of curses, mysterious disappearances, and unexplainable phenomena. Children dared not go near it, and even the bravest adults crossed the street to avoid its shadow. Ethan, an adventurous urban explorer and amateur paranormal investigator, had heard the stories but dismissed them as superstition. His curiosity and need for content for his blog drove him toward the mansion, a towering structure that seemed to breathe in the twilight. The mansion's gates loomed ahead, rusted and twisted, entwined with thorny vines. As he pushed them open, the metallic screech echoed through the fog-laden gardens, where dead trees reached toward him like skeletal fingers. The wind whispered through the branches, carrying voices that seemed to call his name. Approaching the mansion, Ethan noticed the windows shattered and warped, doors hanging off their hinges, and the stone facade cracked with age. Inside, the air was heavy with dust, mildew, and the faint metallic scent of decay. The grand hallway stretched before him, lined with torn carpets, broken furniture, and cobweb-covered chandeliers swaying gently, as if moved by invisible hands. His flashlight illuminated portraits on the walls, ancestors of the Blackridge family, eyes dark and hollow, staring down as if judging him. A cold breeze swept through the mansion, extinguishing his flashlight for a heartbeat. When it flickered back to life, he saw strange symbols etched into the walls, arcane signs that seemed to pulse faintly, as if alive. Footsteps echoed on the upper floors, though the mansion appeared abandoned. Shadows shifted unnaturally, sometimes forming humanoid shapes before dissolving into darkness. The whispers followed him through the halls, growing louder, almost forming words he couldn't understand, like a language from another world. Ethan's heartbeat quickened as he explored room after room, an old library with rotting books, a dining hall with broken chairs scattered across the floor, and a nursery where toys moved slightly, as if pushed by invisible hands. He found a mirror that did not reflect his image, but a twisted version of himself. Eyes sunken, skin pale, mouth open in silent scream. A sudden crash upstairs made him spin around, flashlight trembling in his hand. The wind howled through broken windows, carrying the faint scent of something rotten. A staircase leading to the basement caught his attention, known in legends to contain the mansion's darkest secrets, a sealed chamber untouched for decades. Descending into the basement, the air grew colder, heavier, filled with the stench of decay and something faintly metallic. Walls seemed to close in, stretching and twisting as if alive. A low hum vibrated through the floor, resonating in his chest, making it hard to breathe. At the bottom, he found a small chamber illuminated by an unnatural glow. In the center rested a chest, covered with glowing arcane symbols that shifted when viewed from different angles. Ethan's hand trembled as he reached for the lid, aware of the warnings whispered in the shadows. The moment he opened it, a blinding light surged forth, shadows shrieking and retreating like fleeing specters. Figures emerged from the darkness, horrific shapes of past explorers trapped between life and death, their faces twisted in eternal torment. Ethan stumbled backward, heart hammering, realizing that the mansion was sentient, feeding on fear, and that the chest was the source of its power. The room pulsed with energy, the air thickening, pressing down on him, but he forced himself to focus. Using his flashlight, he illuminated the chamber, revealing patterns of runes on the walls that seemed to narrate the mansion's history, betrayal, murder, and restless spirits seeking revenge. A shadow loomed behind him, a towering hooded figure, faceless, radiating malevolence. "You shouldn't have come here," a voice echoed in his mind, metallic and resonant. Ethan backed up, tripping over debris, the chest glowing brighter, almost imploring him to interact with it. Summoning courage, he opened the diary tucked within the chest. The pages glowed with arcane light, revealing secrets of the mansion's horrors and the means to survive. As he read aloud, the shadows recoiled, the air trembled, and a pathway appeared leading upward, a narrow staircase toward freedom. The mansion trembled violently as Ethan ascended, walls cracking, debris falling around him, yet he pressed on. Finally, he emerged outside just as dawn broke, the fog lifting slightly, revealing the town of Blackridge bathed in pale light. He turned to look at the mansion, now silent and still, as if nothing had happened. Yet the diary in his hands glowed faintly, a reminder that the mansion's secrets were alive, waiting for the next curious soul. Ethan breathed deeply, feeling the weight of survival, understanding that some stories must be faced, no matter the cost, and some truths are darker than imagination. Ethan's pulse raced as he explored deeper into Blackridge Mansion. The shadows seemed to shift around him, forming shapes that were both human and monstrous, whispering his name in chilling tones. The staircase he had descended earlier had disappeared, replaced by an endless corridor that twisted unnaturally. The mansion itself seemed alive, walls pulsating, floors creaking as if breathing. He entered a grand ballroom, once magnificent but now decayed. Broken chandeliers hung precariously, casting eerie reflections that danced across the walls. The floor was covered in dust and shards of glass, and faint footprints appeared and disappeared without explanation. Ethan's flashlight flickered, revealing ghostly figures of previous inhabitants, frozen mid-motion, eyes wide in terror. Some seemed to reach for him, their whispers blending into a cacophony of pleading and warning. A faint glow at the far end of the room caught his attention. A doorway, previously unnoticed, now radiated a soft, unnatural light. Ethan approached cautiously, feeling a pull toward it, even as every instinct screamed danger. Through the doorway lay a hidden library, filled with ancient books, occult artifacts, and mysterious symbols. The air was heavy with the scent of old parchment and something metallic. As he examined the shelves, books began to float, pages turning on their own, forming words in a language he couldn't comprehend. Suddenly, the floor trembled. Shadows coalesced into tall, faceless figures that moved silently toward him. Ethan backed away, tripping over a stack of books, but the glowing diary from the previous chapter vibrated in his hands, urging him to continue. He discovered a hidden staircase descending further into the mansion's bowels. Every step intensified the whispers, which had now become chants, resonating through his mind, attempting to break his focus. At the bottom, he found a chamber adorned with glowing runes and a large, ancient mirror. In the mirror, he saw not his reflection, but scenes of past horrors, explorers trapped, spirits screaming, shadows consuming the living. From the corner of the chamber, a shadowy figure emerged, taller and more terrifying than before. Its presence pressed against Ethan's mind, filling him with terror and doubt. "You cannot leave. Your fear feeds us," it whispered in his thoughts. Ethan took a deep breath, clutching the diary. He began reading aloud from its pages, the glow intensifying, shadows recoiling, the mist dissipating slightly. He realized that the mansion's power was linked to the diary and that understanding its secrets was the only way to survive. The chamber walls began to shift, revealing a narrow corridor leading upward, lit faintly by the diary's glow. Figures lurked in the corners, but Ethan focused on the path, determination overriding his fear. As he ascended, the mansion groaned violently, shadows clawing at him, walls cracking, debris falling. Finally, he reached a landing that led to the main floor, daylight beginning to pierce through shattered windows. Ethan paused, breathless, realizing the mansion's horrors were far from over, but his courage had given him a chance. He knew that to escape fully, he would need to uncover every secret, confront every shadow, and face the mansion's darkest truths. Ethan's hands trembled as he descended the mansion's hidden corridors once more, knowing the true horrors awaited him below. The air grew colder, thicker, and whispers turned into deafening screams that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Shadows stretched and twisted, forming grotesque shapes that lunged at him but vanished when he looked directly. The mansion was alive, feeding on fear, and every step he took seemed to empower it further. He entered the basement chamber, now glowing with a sickly green light emanating from arcane symbols etched into the walls. The glowing diary vibrated violently in his hands, illuminating figures that appeared from the mist, past victims, explorers, and intruders, all trapped in eternal torment. A towering hooded figure approached, faceless and silent, its presence pressing into Ethan's mind. "You should not have come," a metallic voice resonated in his thoughts. Fear surged through him, but he clenched the diary, determination overtaking terror. Ethan read aloud from the diary, the symbols on the walls reacting, glowing brighter, forcing the shadows backward. The chamber trembled as if the mansion itself were fighting him, but the diary's power pushed the darkness away, opening a path upward. The shadows tried to block him, forming twisted versions of his own fears, but he ran, heart pounding, using the diary's glow to guide him. The staircase led him out of the basement and into the main hall, sunlight beginning to pierce through the broken windows. Outside, Ethan gasped for air, the cold mist swirling around the mansion, carrying the faint echoes of whispers and screams. He looked back at the mansion, still standing tall, silent, yet alive with secrets that remained untold. Though terrified, Ethan knew he had survived the mansion's horrors, carrying with him the knowledge of its dark power. The diary remained in his hands, glowing faintly, a reminder that the mansion's grip extended beyond walls, into minds, into stories, and into anyone who dared to uncover its secrets. He walked away slowly, knowing the nightmare wasn't truly over, but ready to face whatever horrors came next, for curiosity and courage had guided him this far.